In India, we have a saying, Atiti Devo Bhava, which means the guest is the god. And one such guest in the year 1757 misused this character of us. And today we are celebrating the independence from them. Before knowing the why the guest did this, let's know how they did it. So the story begins in the year 1600 on the New Year's Eve. The Queen of England, Elizabeth I, had signed a royal charter granting permission to a group of adventure merchants to set out on an adventure in search of new business ground. These group of adventure merchants will later be known as the East India Company. The leaders of the East India Company, or EIC for short, were only interested in competing with the Dutch, French, and the Portuguese in the East Indies, present-day Philippines, Indonesia, Bali, and Java. The East India Company was unsuccessful in competing with the Dutch, French, and Portuguese in the East Indies and were thrown out. Now, the leaders of the East India Company were forced to find new business grounds. This is when they laid their eyes on the Indian subcontinent. In the year of 1640, the company managed to gain the trust of a South Indian king, and a company representative was granted a piece of land. This was a pivotal moment for the EIC, as this was the first piece of land owned by the British on our soil. This piece of land was later used to build the Fort of St. George, and the settlement around this Fort of St. George is what came to be known as Madras or current-day Chennai. The British started acquiring many lands alike and calling them Surat, Bombay, Calcutta, Vizag, butchering their true names into the names that slid easily on their tongues. This later helped the British become a great exporter of cotton, salt, and spices. And mind it, these were the times when cotton, salt, and spices were seen as a luxury all over the world. As in the word of Brie Gardner, the author of the book EIC, spices had a considerable place in life. Men were prepared to die in search of them, and many did. No gift was more acceptable to be well supplied as a mark of status. Wealth could be measured in spices. In the year 1739, when the Mughals, who ruled a major part of India, began to decline due to the major resistance from the Marathas, Cholas, Persians, and Afghans, the Europeans began showing increased involvement in Indian affairs. In the next 9 years, when the Marathas had to fight the Mughals away, the EIC offered help. And so on, under the supervision of Robert Clive, the EIC on June 1757 defeated the Nawab of Bengal and their French allies. This battle would later be known as the Battle of Plassey. The Battle of Plassey marks the official invasion of the British, as this gave them the power to take control over major parts of India unchecked by anyone. The British still faced major resistance from the Sikh Empire and other kingdoms alike who didn't want to shake hands with the British. Jhansi of Uttarakhand was one such kingdom, led by the great Rani Lakshmi Bai. However, when the Duke of Wellington undertook power, the India was defeated on 1805. In the year 1850, there was a spark among the Indian citizens as the EIC began demanding social and economic reforms that alienated the local rulers. These emotions then culminated into the Great Indian Rebellion of 1857. This was when the Mughal Empire was completely desolated and the power was transferred from the hands of the EIC to the Crown of England. In 1876, two men, Surendranath Banerjee and Ananda Mohan Bose, shook hands, or more like joined hands. Together they founded the Indian Association. The Indian Association attracted the Association of Educated People of India to educate others towards the aspiration of independence. The whole of 19th century, the British exploited the resources and the livelihood of the Indian citizens, all to fuel the Industrial Revolution back in Britain. And this led to major amount of famines in India. On the 9th of January 1915, a man from South Africa arrived at India, Mohandas Karamchari Mahatma Gandhiji. Gandhiji travelled all around India, sinking in the situation that prevailed back then. And then, in the year 1916, Gandhiji founded the Sabarmati Ashram in Ahmedabad. And then were the struggles of Gandhi, which everyone are aware of, and you would have read it in the books. starting with the Champaran Satyagraha 1917, Keda Satyagraha 1917 to 1918, the non-cooperation movement 1920, the civil disobedience movement 1930, and the Quit India movement 1942. We have seen the how they conquered India, but the why is very simple. The British saw an opportunity to exploit the resources and they exploited. They made us the cattle ground, the slaughter ground for their factories. The colonialism was a far more traumatizing experience for the colonial subjects than the colonizers themselves. The colonialism led to poverty, suffering, malnutrition, diseases, cultural upheavals, social and economic exploitations, political disadvantages, and systemic programs that aimed at social and racial inferiorities. One such systematic program that led to social and racial inferiority was the Christian missionaries. The Christian missionaries' main goal was to convert as many Indian Muslims and Hindus as possible as Christians. There were only three types of people during the independence struggle: the ones that gave in, the ones that believed in the fallacies put by the British that the white race is the superior race and every other race belongs under, and the third type of people who actually stepped forward and fought for the independence of the country. The economy of India was devastated due to the colonization, and before the British involved, we were exporting diamonds, cotton, and spices. After the British left, our economy was left to rubbles. And then it has taken 74 years of India's time and energy to bring back our net worth to 3.5% or 12.614 billion US dollars. And the kicker over here is UK, the country that ruled over us and colonized us for 200 years, its net worth is 4% or 14 billion US dollars. We're just 0.5% below them. This just goes on to show that India is running. India is running towards success and greatness. And India has had backstabbers all along its existence. Even now we have backstabbers. But the only people that can boost the pace of India are you and me. You and me, we are the ones that can fight and do something for our country. And I hope you actually do something for your country. Jai Hind.